What calls us as Unitarian Universalists to worship? We do not agree about the divine. Are there many manifestations of God or gods, or are there none? Or is the answer that the divine is interwoven into all that is, all of reality? We do not agree about the way worship should be structured, whether a minister is needed or not, nor do we necessarily agree about the purpose of religion in our lives. I believe, perhaps unsurprisingly, given the vocation I chose, that a congregation serves a pivotal role in people's lives. It is a centering place for developing relationships beyond one's family of origin. It is a place where the work of justice can be done with more hands and more voices than we can muster alone. We can celebrate our precious moments in this life with each other. It is a place where resources can be gathered and focused toward goals that none of us could accomplish alone. It is a place where we can learn practices and share practices with one another that help us find equilibrium in a world that is often unpredictable. And it is a place where we can bring our sorrows and share the weight of them with others. Emil Durkheim said this about what religion is. A religion is a solitary system of beliefs and practices relative to things sacred, that is to say, set apart and taboo. Beliefs and practices which bring together those who adhere to them in a moral community known as a church. But what is the object of our worship when we gather? What are those things that are sacred to us? Our reading by Jacob Trapp in our Gray Hymnal offers some answers about how one might worship and what one might worship. First, the how. Standing in awe, being silent, working with dedication and skill, and singing are all mentioned. These are ways of being, perhaps ways to approach the act of worship. And there are a set of emotional qualities to worship that Trapp shares. A loneliness seeking communion, a kindred fire in our hearts, a mystery within us reaching out to a mystery beyond us. I see this as many ways of describing the religious impulse to seek community and to seek encounters with the mysteries of this life. Lastly, the objects of worship that Trapp highlights are a heaven of stars, a flower, a leaf in sunlight, a grain of sand, a tree astir with the wind, the passing shadow of a cloud, a strain of music, the still small voice within, a thirsty land crying out for rain, deeds of kindness, acts of love, mystery yet again, inarticulate silence yearning to speak, and the window of the moment open to the sky of the eternal. I see all of this poetic language pointing toward an answer to what it is we worship, and that is beauty. Beauty in nature, in human relationship, or in connection with the divine. So much of the content of our worship services are about creating beauty together. The music, the hymns, the words we share, Even the joys and sorrows people bring are beautiful in their honesty. I believe that is what calls us back to worship week after week. Even when we take a break for a time, we are seeking contact with the beautiful in different ways. A few years back, I shared my thoughts about what an ethic of beauty might call us to do in this world, and I want to bring back some of those words into our thoughts today. Because beauty is more than appreciating things we find appealing. There is an ethical imperative tied to approaching what is beautiful. This is because beauty is also fragile, whether it be found in the natural world, in our relationships with others, or in the things we create. It takes effort to appreciate beauty, or to create beauty, or to preserve beauty, even for just a moment. But it is also impossible to hold on to it forever. It is more than a fluffy feeling and takes commitment to notice the beautiful in a world that is so challenging to live in so often. Whether those challenges are financial, emotional, relational, or physical, we all have them, and it is understandable to get wrapped up in those very real things in our daily lives. And I believe that approaching and cultivating the beautiful is an act of resistance and resilience. Whether or not you think of yourself as an artist, whether you think you have an eye for the beautiful, beauty can become a religious practice in and of itself. Toni Morrison says of beauty, "At some point in life, the world's beauty becomes enough. You don't need to photograph, paint, or even remember it. It is enough. No record of it needs to be kept, and you don't need someone to share it with or tell it to." It takes a great deal more effort to create something than it does to destroy it. Think about a sand castle made on a warm summer beach. Hours may go into forming grains of sand into towers and moats and surrounding walls. Little details added like windows and doors and the outlines of bricks along the carefully shaped walls. All of that creativity of thought and careful shaping of hands makes millions of tiny grains become organized into shapes that moments ago were only imagined. And then a wave comes, or perhaps a sibling spreading chaos, and all is transformed again back into disordered sand. The beauty is transformed. Buddhist monks create mandalas out of sand too. Teams of monks spend days or even weeks to create intricate patterns out of sand. The mandala is a sacred representation of the world in its perfect, beautiful form. The process and the witnessing of the mandala's creation calls attention to beauty and to what is possible with focus. And then, in a closing ritual, the mandala is destroyed. It becomes disordered sand again. This sand is given to anyone present for the closing ritual as a reminder of the possibility of a more beautiful and sacred world. It is also placed in the nearest river to go back out into the world as a blessing. The beauty is transformed. This afternoon at 2 p.m., everyone is invited to Buxmont's physical location at 2040 Street Road in Warrington to create our own version of a mandala together. Often called a natural mandala, This one won't be made out of sand and won't be as precise as those the monks create. This one will be made out of flower petals, pine cones, branches, leaves, and other natural objects. A gathering together of objects by a group of people to create something beautiful in the moment. You can bring things from your own gardens or backyards if you'd like. The only rule is that they need to be able to be left outside and decompose naturally. Since we have guests with us from multiple congregations today, I want to be clear the invitation extends to you as well. And if you are not able to journey to be with us in person, you can make your own natural mandala anytime you'd like to. Creating community like this one and the ones we all represent takes effort too. Places like these do not just happen. Incredible volunteers and staff help arrange all the pieces into an order that we hope creates beauty too. The programs and events that happen in all of our congregations throughout a year take hundreds of people and thousands of hours of caring, thoughtful effort. And at times, great change comes along too, some welcome and some troubling. But change is inevitable nonetheless. And while all that has been built here is not undone, it is transformed into something different over time. This is part of living out the ethic of beauty, to bring the time and talents we each can to the work of creating community together. The beauty of a classroom of kids or a choir in harmony. The beauty of a physical space that is pleasing to the eye and comfortable to be in. The beauty of a support group to share what is on our hearts. And the beauty of a place in this world that we can come back to over and over again. We hold traditions and memory at the same time we encounter novelty and experimentation. In our mortal lives, we create beauty all along the way, and know it is not forever. Time acts as the wave, ready to transform the sandcastle into something else, and time acts as the wind, ready to move the carefully arranged mandala into a new pattern. Mandy Hale's words may act as a charge to us all. There is nothing more beautiful than someone who goes out of their way to make life beautiful for others. When I think about what an ethic of beauty might entail, it is found in things that sandcastles and mandalas can teach us. It is found, too, in learning to appreciate a dark sky filled with stars, or something as simple as the shape of a cliff worn by wind and rain. And it is found in the lessons of impermanence, of flowers, and the living of our own precious lives. We learn to balance the need to hold several things simultaneously. It is for us to honor and conserve the beautiful in this world. It is for us to practice when to let go, too, and revel in the beauty of a moment that will never be again. It is for us to remember that life itself is the greatest teacher, for in the brevity of our lives do we find the preciousness. In the constant stream of time and change, we find the uniqueness of life and the challenge to make the world we encounter a bit more beautiful for our having been in it. May we move toward beauty together. So may it be.